There it is, the P0128. Okay, we're back, and as you've seen, we just pulled a code out of this 2004 Chevy Trail Blazer. It was a P0128. And I just checked the freeze frame data, and that code was made present when it was driving down the highway on the way into town. So we know we have a problem. It's about the 12th time that that code has been sent, and I thought it'd be time to deal with it. The other problem is we have, I don't know if you can hear that, but we have a bad clutch fan. So the clutch fan is chirping away and clicking away. It's extremely loose. The thermostat needs changing. So I thought, hey, we'll start a video here. We haven't done one in quite some time. We'll just document pulling the clutch fan and changing it and the thermostat. So we can see the bottom rat hose right down there. It's behind the alternator. So because we're going to take the shroud and the fan out, we'll just we'll just take all that out too. As well, we're going to have to get to that big nut there on the fan. Now, some people use a crescent wrench. As long as you can hold this pulley somehow, you're fine. Some people use an air hammer and give it a knock. Lots of people do lots of things. Just utilize what you have and what you can do, okay? I have a cheap tool. Well, I got it from Princess Auto in Canada. Probably kind of the same as Harbor Freight in the US. Take a quick look at it. It's just some steel, flat steel style wrenches like this. But we'll get to that when we use those. Okay, so that's what we know. We know we need to loosen those. We're going to get those out. So let's make it a little bit easier. We'll get rid of this bar. We'll get rid of the battery box and the battery. We'll undo this radiator hose. And we'll have to do that because the shroud right here will interfere with the hose. So now the shroud and the fan need to come out as one. So here's the fan, and then the shroud all the way over. So we need to unbolt the shroud, these bolts here. Okay. And then we'll remove the radiator hose. And we'll also have to undo the cooling lines for the transmission that are attached to it down here. So we'll knock those off of there as well. Once we do all that and unloosen the clutch fan, we should be able to pull the fan and the shroud out as one unit. Once we have the fan and the shroud out, what we're going to do is we'll, down here at the tensioner, okay, we'll undo the belt, we'll remove the belt, we'll check both of our pulleys to make sure that they're good, or I have our pulleys, we have one down here. We'll check our alternator, and we have the one that rides on there, okay. We'll check those while it's apart. Then we're going to remove this bracket here. And with this bracket, basically, this plastic piece is connected right here. We'll lift that off. Got a 15 mil bolt here, 15 mil bolt here. And if we look right behind there, there's one right behind here as well. So we'll get rid of those 3 bolts. We'll unattach this bolt so we can move the AC line over. We'll remove this piece. We have 3 15 millimeter headed bolts on the alternator. We have one at the bottom, I believe, and 2 at the top. There's one right there. And we'll remove the alternator, and that will expose the thermostat housing. All right, let's start by removing this this shroud. Let's start by getting the tool in the right position. There we go. Top one on the driver's side now. All right, the battery, the crossbar for the battery. You got that one there. Let's move that out of the way. Okay, here we'll just use a 5/16. I have a little ratchet wrench. And what we'll do is we'll undo the battery cables. Okay, so the battery is a 13 millimeter nut. Okay. All right, let's remove that and get the battery out. Okay, we made ourselves a lot more room. So we'll keep dismantling as we go here. Okay, so the transmission lines are pretty easy. You can just use a little pry bar or a screwdriver, or you can do it by hand if you want. They just clip into these little clips here, and they'll be a little annoying the whole way, but don't worry about it too much. Just pull them away a little bit when you're trying to get this apart, and you'll be just fine. That's what these tools look like. You just want to find whatever will fit in yours. So you just want to lock them between the bolts, the washers, wherever. Okay, so it locks, so you can hold it on the pulley, and then you can just undo it. Okay, so we have our tool on there with a strong arm. All right, 1/2 inch. Then we have our crescent wrench. And I cannot break it free. So I know a lot of the times we watch these YouTube videos and these guys just break it free like it was meant to be. But this one's tight. I'll have to use a bar. That was the bar we had to use on the end of the crescent wrench. But we got it. We'll get this crescent wrench off there, and then we'll pull this out, and I'll show you what we had here. So this is essentially what we had, just this here, and we were holding on the bottom, holding that pulley from turning. Some of these are really tight, so don't let that fool you. A lot of people say they come off easy. They do not come off easy a lot of the time. Well, not here anyway. All right, will that undo itself? Look at that. We'll spin that out of there and we'll get ready to get the shroud out. Okay, so we can see that the clutch fan hub part is on top of the pulley and the bolts for the water pump. Okay. We have it pulled away here. And what we need to do is pull it away from the sides. Unhook the center. And then we still have this. All right. So basically, you want to make sure, sorry about that, no light. We want to make sure that we have room for the fan to come straight up. Our cooling lines are below the two holders there for our transmission. We have everything apart. Now we're going to pull the rad back and the shroud forward, and we're going to pull it out. All right. So let me get this out, and I hope that helped. Transcooler lines off. Center out. I actually pulled my center bolts out here just to see if I can get a little more movement right here. Pulled the rad back. Push the shroud forward. There we go. So I'm just going to lift it out here. So there it is. So I basically just grabbed the fan up in here and lifted it out with the shroud, tilted it a bit, and it came right out. So remember, that's the order to do it. You're going to struggle. It's not easy, but that's how you do it. And yeah, let's get going on that alternator. Okay, for the idler, it's pretty simple. We just a 3/8 socket and an extension. That's what's on it. Push down, let it go, and that's about the end of it. Right away, I'm going to check both my idlers. I need an idler. Turn it. So, we'll get an idler tomorrow, and I don't know if you guys seen that. This one is no longer happy. So we'll get a new idler for that, and we're going to keep taking it apart here. We already removed our AC line. So remember, we have a bolt in the back there. We'll just set it up, we'll get that out. Okay, that's the last bolt we're going to get for that bracket, the third one, right at the end of my little pin light there. Now it's inside of there, so it's in behind the bracket. So it's easy to get to, but if you have a problem and you have a big ratchet and you're out here somewhere, you might find it hard to get on the bolt evenly. Like, you'll be a little bit crooked, your socket will be crooked on the bolt. So if you run into that problem, right down here, there's that little steel plate right here, and there's an 8mm bolt there that holds that bracket on. Let that, loosen that up and lift that harness out of the way. And that way you won't have any problems. So let's get that out of there. So there it is, 15mm bolt. There should be one bolt underneath. I believe there's one bolt underneath and there's the two on the top. Now this hose will be a bit in the way as well, but it will not really too concerned about removing the bolt, just getting it over the block here. Okay, finally the heater stopped. Basically, I couldn't use my ratchet wrench right at the end. I used a small 15 mil. Got that bolt so it's against the hose, but it's over the block. These things are actually pretty tight. They're not real hard to work on. They're a little annoying. All right, so we'll just fish this over there. Not a big deal. We'll get these two clips out. So this one is just we'll just push it in, or pardon me. Oh, lift it off. All right, and we'll get a 10 mil. We'll get this off there. So this clip was just looks like that. Just pull back on there and pull it up. We'll get a 10 millimeter wrench and we'll get that off. All right, we'll remove the alternator. Okay, so now we can see the thermostat housing right there. So what we should do now is we should probably get ready and drain the radiator. Okay, so lucky for us, someone's been in here before, and we have a regular hose clamp. Unlucky for us, they tighten it from the bottom. So that's the back of it. So I'll get that loosened off, and then we'll move that around, and then we'll drain the coolant. Okay, so we got our clamp loosened there, so we can deal with our thermostat housing. We undid our clamp down there. Well, we just pushed it together. And now we'll get the more radiator hose off. Now, I'd like to do this so I don't get fluid everywhere, but as luck would have it, that doesn't always work out in your favor. I'll let that drain for a minute, then we'll continue on. All right, we're going to get ready to assemble the Trailblazer. So real quick, we'll just recap the parts we're going to use. We purchased Gates idler pulley. Okay, that's a 36227. So here's the nice and smooth and quiet. And then again, nice and grindy and loud. The thermostat and the housing, they're genuine GM. We covered that at the beginning of the video. As well as that's what was on it. So I didn't see an actual problem with the thermostat, but that's the number right there. But I do see they changed the hose along the way for some reason, and I'm not too sure why. I don't know the history of this vehicle. And we're using the Hayden 3200 fan clutch. So I paid $250 for that in this area. It's the only one that was available. There was a thermal that they said retailed for $6.95, and they sell for $4 something. But it wasn't really available to me. And there is a difference here. The gap here between this attachment point and the fan is very little. There's a lot more length on that one than there is on that one. So we're putting it in anyway because we need the vehicle to be running. And it doesn't tow anything or anything like that, so I'm not too concerned about it. So let's get this back together. Okay, we cleaned up the block. Made sure it was clean. Right here you can see a yellow mark and that little dent in the pipe there. Basically, we have the same dent here in the same location on this pipe. I just marked the hole so when I put it together, I know pretty much exactly where it was. It's not hard, and if you want to put the hose on beforehand, you can just do it that way. Just find a alignment mark and go from there. On the vehicle itself, what we did here was I went over it with a razor blade real quick, real lightly, and then I used a piece of Scotch Brite, and then I cleaned it off. So that's how I'm going to do it. And obviously, I'm not telling you how to do it, but that's just the way I've chosen to do it. You can do it however you like. Okay, so I just set the thermostat housing down in there. Obviously, we just set it down in here. Start your bolts by finger. And I believe the torque, if you look it up through any website or any of the GM stuff, will tell you it's about 89 inch-pounds. Not foot-pounds, inch-pounds. And if you don't have an inch-pound meter and you don't want to try and torque whatever it is, 9 or 10 foot-pounds, whatever that is, you'll just have to tighten it up carefully and evenly. Okay, so the O-ring fits into that little receiver there where we seen earlier when we had this off. So you just want to make sure that this is centered. And yeah, I'll just snug it up here so it quits moving, and then we'll go from there. The next decision we need to make is where we want to put our hose clamp. So this one here is a regular worm clamp. Now, the reason I'm guessing that they pointed to the bottom is they probably had the pan off and they took it off the bottom. I'm going to do this differently. Most of the guys that try and do these jobs, if they're only doing the thermostat, try and do it through the wheel well on the driver's side here, right? So I'm thinking to myself, well, if I ever have to do it again, not that I'm sure that I ever will, but if I had to, and I want to do it through the driver's side wheel well, which would come right where my finger is, I'll just put it so I can get a ratchet wrench on it or something. So we'll just put it that way. And then, yeah. So we'd actually be able to access it if we put it like this through that hole. Plus we can tighten it up. And it's out of the way of the alternator. So it's not a big deal. So I'm going to do that. Okay. And then we retrieved our bottom clamp off the floor for the bottom one. So let's bolt this hose clamp on, and then we'll get to the alternator. I found the easiest way to tighten this was with a ratchet. Okay, I think we got it. So we used a little 1/4 inch with an 8mm. I just wanted to tighten this hose down so I don't want to hurt the clamp, so I'm just being careful. So to make sure we got that, looks nice and tight. Here's that dimple and that yellow mark, just as a reminder if you want to just set yourself up. So we got that on, so we'll put the bottom part of the hose on, and then, or you know what, we'll put the alternator on. 10mm nut. Okay, that's in. That's in. All right, so we have our bottom bolt in the case. So let's just turn this. And grab a couple bolts here. All right, we'll get these tightened up. All right, so we have the alternator basically done back up here. We'll install that new idler, and then we'll do the bottom rat hose. Okay, original hardware. Make sure it fits on there properly first. Okay. We'll just torque that down. Remember, those bolt into aluminum, so you don't have to make them, as tight as you can. You want to be careful, and again, I recommend you look up torque specs if you're not comfortable. Let's get that belt on. Shouldn't be too hard. kind of remember it. We didn't pull it right off. There we go. Make sure it's on everywhere. And the harmonic balancer. Yep. All right. So we got our belt on. We got our alternator in. We have our thermostat in. Just gonna put this bracket on right now. It looks like I'm struggling because for some reason I am. It's easy. Just double check. We did our bottom round hose. Let's do this up. And then that bolt's way too long for where it needs to be. Let's move that into the, clip that back down. And really, we just have the front to do now. So what we'll do is we'll get ready to do the fan. And it should be a little bit easier because it's probably about 1/4 of an inch shallower. So let's give that a shot. Okay, so we're going to remove this clutch fan. So it's pretty easy to remove from the shroud. It's kind of an awkward unit. We just push these, I'll do this on camera. Push these together, right there, where they lock in. And then just simply slide off. Now there might be 2 little pin push connectors here, but mine didn't have any, so I just had the clip in there. There it is down there. So if we slide out, we could just slide the whole fan out. All right. Okay, so our new clutch fan is installed. We just set the fan inside of there. Again, this is just slides on in here. Then you have that little lock and that little clip. There we go, it's locked into the back. And now we can start the process of putting that all back together. We didn't really show taking it out because, like I said, it's a little bit of a weird situation. So, alright, so far so good. Okay. There we go. Alright, so now we got down to a particular position. So that's kind of the sliding in portion of the video. Alright. Alright. So now we should have that back a bit. Alright, there we go. Alright, this is a little bit annoying to put in, you guys. There we go. We were able to spin the fan onto the water pump. Everything's back in place. Our hook is in. Everything's there. So I hope that helped. Like I say, it's not easy to see all that. But we'll tighten that back up right now and get all this back together. Just tighten up this clutch fan. All right. Clutch fan is snugged on. Let's get the shroud bolted back up. Top radiator hose and some fluid back in it. Again, I apologize about the fans that keep going. I'm running out of light though. My batteries are dying. Just take the fan shroud bolts there. We'll make sure we got it set in the bottom. It's definitely in. On each side. On top of that, we'll make sure that we plug in the clutch fan. Don't break these off if you're using electric tools. always try and put these clamps back where I found them in the same position. I think most people do. Alright, apparatus is in. We're all plugged in there. Let's get the battery. Alright, battery's done up. Everything's back together. We will put some antifreeze in here and we'll fire it up and let it circulate. Okay, it's a little bit loud in here. Truck's running. The heater's on. It's been running for about 20 minutes. Everything looks good. No issues. Don't forget to put your transmission lines back in the little holders. Yeah, everything's good. I don't think we have any issues whatsoever. Just waiting for this last little air bubble I think is there. Other than that, I'm going to take it for a test drive and make sure everything's working as it should. Okay, so we're going to wind this video down. So this is basically the end of the Trailblazer thermostat fan clutch video. Basically what had happened is we had a P0128 code, which in general just means your engine isn't running up to proper operating temperature. And we changed those two components. And one of the things I did not film, and I wish I would have, I went back before I cleared the code and checked my freeze frame data, and it showed that the engine had been running for over 10 minutes and only made it up to 68 degrees Celsius, which is why the ECM triggered the code. So, which meant that this engine was running quite cold. And also on the temp gauge on the lower right there, it was also like between a quarter and a half. Now it's over a half. So just those two changes alone, we have no check engine light. It runs great. If you can barely hear me, we have a pretty strong wind here. Our temperature now, if you look at the third line down on the scan tool, it's about 91, 92 degrees Celsius. So we picked up about 24 degrees overall, and everything's happy again. So I thank everybody for watching these videos, and if you have anything in particular that you want to see, let me know. And until next time, thanks for watching.